Cameron. I read something this afternoon that says if you're sharing an event, don't say hello, ladies and gentlemen, because that's passé now. So I'm glad you can all make it. My name is Stephen Cameron, and I'm the owner of IntoCreative and the print into books. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me at the back? Okay. I'm not used to public speaking, so I've got a couple of notes here. First of all, I wanted to say that really this is hopefully a different type of book launch event to what you've ever seen before. I generally try to do bespoke events for the subject matter of the book, so you might have noticed the look of an Italian trattoria. Is that, I'm pronouncing it right? Just thank you for coming. A lot of people here are David's friends, and I snuck a few of my friends in as well. So the format of the evening, timings are movable, but generally speaking, the first thing that we'll go into after this is Anna will be speaking to David and asking him to do a couple of readings from his book, which I know you'll enjoy. It's fantastic, and the two of them can have a wee natter and some questions from Anna to David. At the end of that, we'll have a break for 5 minutes. You can refresh your glasses or whatever you need to do in that 5 minutes. And then we'll have a fantastic musician who will be playing. Some of you will know James Grant. I feel absolutely honoured that he's managed to come down and support David. James is here as a friend of David as well. This is not a gig, this is somebody helping out David and supporting him, so thank you very much for that. And then we'll have back to Anna and David, and there'll be a bit more chat, and then an opportunity for any questions that you have. So I'm sure that I don't think I've got any plans there that they're going to ask the questions, so please don't be shy. And then after that we'll have the book sales, which will be up at the very back of the room, and David will be there to do any signings or any dedications. You don't need to limit yourself to one book, says the publisher. So that's it, and we're aiming to finish maybe about 10:30ish, but if you feel like another drink and another drink, it might roll on a wee bit, so don't worry about that. We're not going to get chucked out. Okay. So I'll just pass you over to Anna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. So, I'm not going to do the big Wikipedia-style introduction to David because this is the friends and family evening. I suppose we could call it a soft launch if we were young people. So, without further ado, David's going to read from the book and introduce us to Tony Moscardini and the characters in The Newspaper Man.
Thank you, Anna. I'm going to start with what is allegedly the funniest bit in the book. It comes about 3/4 of the way through. My central character, Mr. Tony Moscardini, he has given up Glasgow to go and live in Italy, and he is making a visit back to Glasgow, to the big city where all sorts of scary things befall him. But one of the better things that befalls him is finding a record shop called Faster Louder. I'll do a reading, and hopefully if you laugh in the right places, that will be great, because there will be other readings that will come that will produce only a kind of rueful silence amongst you, because they're not funny at all. Anyway, this is Tony. When he walked into Faster Louder, it greeted him with a comforting smell of mildew, weed smoke, perspiration, unwashed denim, crushed dreams, the homecoming scent of music. The shop's linoleum floor was sticky, pock-marked and dirt-blackened. Its rough-hewn wooden bins held miles of second-hand vinyl LPs and CDs. He estimated several days could be spent flicking through those racks without seeing everything. We seem to have kind of unconscious echoes of the Jesus and Mary chain going on here. I'm not sure quite why that is. The stores.
Don't hold it so close to your mouth.
Okay,
Just a wee
the
bit
store's, thanks for your expert. The store's owner was lifting a hinged flap in the counter and retreating through it to perch on a tall stool at Tony's approach. He was in his mid to late 50s, about Tony's age, a similar veteran of the post-punk indie era. Small feet in scuffed black winkle pickers, skinny black jeans, a voluminous black Brooklyn Dodgers button-through baseball tunic held tight to Mr. Faster Louder's broad midsection, whereafter he tapered away to a tiny head displaying ice cream wisps of white hair, his complexion sausage roll grey, buddy holly specs, a snowy soul patch beneath his lower lip, evoking a rhomboidal long-lost nephew of Billy Connolly. The shop's workforce, a slender, omni-gendered youth leaning on the counter, sported an equally arresting look, head shaven at the sides, purple quiff, eyes shaded a delicate metallic blue that somehow didn't clash with his, her, their gingery moustache. Mr. Faster Louder favoured Tony with a glare of semi-recognition and began lambasting some absent staff member for his manifold flaws. His timekeeping, his lackadaisical approach to salesmanship. I once heard him tell a customer we didn't have the new Springsteen when he was leaning his stupid see-nothing elbow on a pile of the damn things, and his peerless ability to misfile things in the shop's backroom vaults. This vehement and, to Tony's ears, amusing rant went on to include the absentee's overlarge and spidery handwriting and his ongoing failure to master the alphabet. If it was left to him, our racks would have the world's biggest T section. Every fucking band that ever gave themselves a fucking name starting with the filed in there. The Beatles, the Doors, the goddamn Rolling Stones, the fabulous Thunderbirds, the shitting Style Council, all in the one fucking T section. 4 cunting miles long and as wide as a fucking house. And you'd never be able to find a cock-sucking thing. And so, there we have it, that's Faster Louder. And on an entirely coincidental basis, if you do find yourself in need of happening vinyl and crucial CDs, you might want to make your way to Love Music Glasgow, 34 Dundas Street, which may or may not have inspired that passage. Thank you. We did laugh eventually in the right places. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm trying to avoid the Jesus and Mary chain effect here. Is this good?
Yes.
Great. So, I think we have to start with some really obvious questions. So, tell us just the origin story of the book. How did this come to be?
It came about because we've been on holiday in Italy's real-life most Scottish town, which is, in reality, it's Barga, because most west of Scotland Italians, their grandparents came from Barga. And Barga it's an incredible place. You'll hear Glaswegian and Italian coming from the same people, interchanging all the time, because it's where lots of Scots go back to live or to go on holiday every summer. And it just came to me, what would it be like if you were a Glaswegian who permanently relocated to Italy, to my mythical town is called Cologne. If you went to Cologne to set up home, thinking you knew what it was like, but it wasn't actually what you thought it was. And I think initially the idea came to me in about 2010 because we'd holidayed in Barga 2 or 3 times. I figured my central character, Tony Moscadini, I figured he might be a retired Glasgow detective, but then I couldn't think of any mystery that he might go back to Glasgow to solve that had anything to do with Italy, with Cologne. And I felt I didn't have anything to add to the detective fiction genre anyway. So I thought, write what you know. I made him a journalist, an ex-journalist, who shares a similar employment background to mine. He used to be a kind of all-purpose arts critic, and hence that's how it started.
So, you mentioned that Tony wrote, waspish music reviews and things that subs didn't understand. You called the book The Newspaper Man, which when I was thinking about it, I thought, he hates newspapers. I mean, when you all read this book, you'll be astounded by how little love Tony Moscardini has for newspapers of any description, any people who worked there, anything that ever happened there. So why did that then become the name of the book?
A good question, which I'm not sure I can answer. I wasn't quite as aware that he hated it as much as he. Yeah, he does. I guess
he hates it.
Yeah.
How can you not have noticed that?
Well, the original title, and I apologise. The original title was going to be in Italian Il Giornalista, and every time I said it, I cringed because it was just the most pretentious title I could think of. The Italian for journalist, and the Newspaper Man just kind of cut to the quick a lot easier, and it also allowed me to start off with a joke about being a newspaper man. I'm a newspaper man. I can't go out in the rain though, because every time I go out, I bought a newspaper shop. It blew away in the wind. There was a few jokes I was able to make use of, and that's why it's called The Newspaper Man. But he's very, very uneasy as a journalist. He didn't get on with most of his workmates, and thankfully there are a number of my ex-workmates are here tonight to prove that I am not Tony Moscardini.
Well, I was going to ask about that. So, is this auto-fiction?
No, it'd be a great deal easier if it had all actually happened. It wouldn't have taken me 2.5 years to write if I was just reporting on my own history. I didn't enjoy the process of writing this book, and I hope you do enjoy reading this book. I didn't find it fun to write because I did have to kind of make everything up and make everyone up. I don't think there's any stuff that actually happened in the book, apart from one bit, because there used to be a famous drunk Glasgow journalist who, if his favourite bar, if there was a throng of people at the bar, he would do a really accurate vocal impersonation of a vacuum cleaner, and he would hoover his way to the bar, making people move out of his way. And that's the only bit that actually happened that made its way into the book.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about that, but I'll let you all read the book and then come to your own conclusions about what didn't happen. But I'm not going to pursue that. I'm not that. I was never that kind of journalist myself, so I'm just going to be very diplomatic about that. How did you decide what to keep real? Use accurate geographic descriptions and so on. And what did you decide to make up? How do you have a big map in your head of what's real and have the fictional bits mapped onto it?
I've got in my head there's a real map of Barga, which is a small kind of medieval hilltop town built around a castle built around the Duomo, the cathedral. My fictional version has a castle that's been demolished. The street plan is kind of largely the same as Barga's, but it's not too important. You get a notion of how big the streets are, how wide, how winding they are. Glasgow is set in the West End and a bit in the city centre and a bit in, I suppose, Finnieston. For some reason, I felt it important to slightly fictionalise Byers Road. So I've made Byers Road into, I think I've called it Kelvin Shaw's Road. And
why? Why did you feel?
I'm being critical of Byers Road, but I had to exaggerate Byers Road to be truly critical of it, because as a West End snob, basically, Byers Road is often filled with the most terrible people who really don't belong here. They're falling around drunk and being sick and having hen parties and stag nights, and it's absolutely outrageous. So I exaggerated Byers Road, and I felt like I had to make it give it a fictional name.
And you fictionalised the name of the newspaper where Tony worked.
He works for the Chronicle.
Yes,
Some sort of a broadsheet newspaper. It could possibly be seen to be the Herald in an exaggerated fashion.
And he's very snitty about down-market tabloids.
Yes, I having started on an upmarket tabloid, the Sunday Post myself, and then also a downmarket tabloid, the Weekly News, but not quite as tabloid as some tabloids. I believe you worked for a tabloid yourself.
Possibly.
Yeah, I gave him that snobbery that I don't think in reality I have, because I admire and respect the work of all my tabloid journalist friends.
Yeah. Thanks for that, David. I'll believe that. So how did you find writing female characters? Did you mentally, if you had the maps in your head, what did you do to write a female character? Did you mentally wear a skirt, or how did that work?
I actually wore a skirt. No, I didn't. I don't know. I found it difficult. I don't know whether I've succeeded. I would hope I have. I just invented an overall authorial narrator's voice, and I hope that I've as much insight into the female psyche as the male. I'm hoping that it's a book that appeals to women readers, because women basically buy more novels than men. So I'm keen that it speaks to women about men, and I would hope it attracts a female readership.
You said earlier that the book, when I laughingly asked for your elevator pitch, you said the book's about dumb men and smarter women. So actually was your strategy just to make the women smarter, which obviously would be very realistic.
Yeah, because women are smart. Well, I think women are emotionally smarter. One of the themes of the book, or one of the strands in the book, is that Tony and his chums, they're all in their 50s, his chums are in their 60s, and yet they behave like they're subject to schoolboy enthusiasms and schoolboy pursuits, and they become engaged in a kind of quixotic burst of cinema filmmaking. And the book is about men maybe indulging their schoolboy urges and staying immature for longer than women.
That's actually a very insightful way of putting it. So would it be a spoiler, do you think, to tell people what actually absolutely stone cold bonkers scheme these three guys dream up over too much Chianti?
They decide, for reasons that do make sense in the book, they decide that they are going to recreate on the narrow, winding streets of a small village, they're going to recreate the famous car chase scene from the film Bullitt, starring Steve McQueen. And they set themselves this task, and I think it's a 10-minute, 42-second sequence. It's the most famous car chase in film history. And they recreate the car chase using three-wheeler Arpe delivery vans, as seen on the cover of the book, hopefully somewhere behind me. And they're helped because one of them is a very skilled BBC Scotland TV film editor and film cameraman, and he's got all the equipment, he's got the know-how, so there's maybe never too much jeopardy that they're going to come up with a usable piece of film that's 10 minutes, 42 seconds long, and it's going to work.
Well, so that explains, in case anyone was wondering why there's a funny little van on the cover of the book. They come up with this brilliant idea, but that's just one of the strands of the book. I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yes, I believed in giving people value for money. There were a ton of things going on, but nothing too complicated.
And did you do a lot of actual research? I liked some of the bits that were realistic details. I thought worked really well. For instance, when Tony Moscardini has to come back to Glasgow, one of the things he has to do is pick up all the old Glaswegians who now live in Bargate. He has to go and pick up all their prescriptions. And this poor guy is, rattling about with this huge kind of basically carry-out of NHS prescriptions for all these old Glaswegians. I mean, is that true? Did you go and visit people and hear their drug smuggling shame?
Well, we do have at least one Scots-Italian in the room tonight whose parents do journey back to Italy on a semi-regular basis. No, the Scots-Italians that I've met, essentially they jet to and from Scotland for their NHS prescriptions and their NHS treatments as well, which is a very canny thing to do. So yes, it seems to be, I don't want to go into too much detail because I've got another drug consignment to run shortly.
Would you like to read another bit before we go to the break?
Right. I'll try. Well, I think I've succeeded now in working out how not to make screaming squalls of feedback. This is about a fifth of the way in, where we meet someone who becomes very important to Tony. He's in his flat, and it's been advertised to him, rather missold to him by a firm of estate agents. It's been sold as an Art Nouveau flat, but it's not really. And so he meets someone who makes it her business to enter his life. Who was Gabriella Sarti, a residential property expert, the owner of Sarti Immobiliari, Cologna's longest established real estate agency, founded by her great-grandfather in 1910. Had she been the realtor tasked with marketing his flat, there would have been no misdirectional wordplay about Art Nouveau intent. They'd been introduced to one another by a sense of outraged professional displeasure, Gabriella's. She was irked that he'd bought his Via di Mezzo apartment through a faceless internet agency and not the local expert, her. She'd half hidden her annoyance during that first meeting after having appeared at the door not long after he'd moved in. Gabriella Sarti, Signor Moscadini must have seen her estate agency shop front in the town. She was wondering whether he needed her informed advice on improvements, as it seemed that 3 months in, was it, he had yet to empty the flat of its oppressive old furniture. Furniture that she'd noted when the property's inheritors, the former inhabitants' children, had invited her appraisal, the cheapskates, choosing the false economy of the online sales route, failing to invest even a little to maximise profits. Staring through severe black-rimmed spectacles, she had resurveyed his flat that first time they'd met, prowling room by room, her heels clicking on the tiles, a consummate performer in her chosen arena, summarising the property's overall worth with outspoken accuracy and bluff legal exactitude. The precise import of its official energy performance certificate, its facilities, utilities, operating costs, its dimensions and cadastral parameters. As Tony had half absorbed her dry realtor's expertise, he had focused on her lips, full and pink and somehow rose-like, and he had marvelled, daydreaming about her own cadastral parameters, her certificated energy performance. A thirsty man gazing at a waterfall could not have marvelled more. She was entrancing.
That's so great. Okay, so before we have a break and then come back to hear James Grant, I'm just going to warn you all that after James Grant, there will be a chance for you all to ask your own questions. So please be thinking about those, and you can ask all the difficult and unpleasant things that I'm too polite to ask David. So that will make it really fun. So if you would all put your minds to that, and we'll see you after the break.
This could be the day you break the cycle of doubt and fear and take control of your life. Leave behind your squalid tears over the cranes and steeples, all the cars and people. See the sun light up the way. sea. Why must it be? You stretch to reach so far beneath you, useless things. Fill the hole in your life, feed your weakness, throw them away. Over cranes and steeples, all the cars and people see the sun light up the way. Oh, your wasted feelings, they have no meaning. I believe this could be the day. I said these things, never really meant them. Tried to live faithful men. I swear, somehow I'll find a way. Finally, over the cranes and steeples, all the cars and light up the way. Oh, your wasted feelings, they have no meaning. I believe this could be the day.
Hard to follow James Grant, but we're going to give it a go, and David's going to read another short extract from the book. While you all think of your penetrating and insightful questions.
Yes, that funny man in the waistcoat is going to read once again from his novel. What have you done to deserve this? I actually feel, looking around, so many familiar faces, I feel as though I've gate crashed my own funeral. And looking at you and seeing that you're all such lovely people, I must have been one heck of a guy. Thanks for being here. This is a bit that comes about a third of the way to the book, and it's about the oak tree, the ancient oak tree in Cologne. It's a kind of a central gathering point. It's a boundary between new and old Cologne, and maybe it's a boundary between the past, the present and the future. Maybe it's a magical boundary. And it's impossible, well, as you're going to hear, it was hard to avoid walking past the oak tree in a town as small as Cologne. On a mid-morning stroll, not long after having made his home there, Tony had spotted a solitary, frail-seeming old man slumped on a leaf-shaded bench, half smiling and nodding as Tony passed. Should he engage? His path to spoken fluency had been slower than he'd hoped, and he was grateful his flawed Italian hadn't halted his equally tardy climb to a place in the multilingual Gabriella's heart. Having grown up in Mary Hill in a dual language home, grating Scots curses, softer Latinate imprecations, he'd been disappointed when locals had adjudged his initial approaches as halting, awkward, those of an outsider. But that morning he'd risked revealing himself as an obvious non-coloniese. Maybe the elderly native was unwell. He addressed the ancient bloke in Italian with slow-paced textbook clarity. The fellow was likely deaf and probably the oldest, most Italian-looking old Italian man in all Italy, his skin tanned by an eternity of Tuscan sunshine and consumption of olive oil. The old-timer's Latin antiquity was further underlined by an aquiline profile which gave him a look of a serving centurion in Rome's legions back when Julius Caesar had been a boy. "Are you feeling okay, signor? Pardon me asking." The old man opened his mouth to assert that he was just waiting for the bloody bus to bloody barger. And it was late again, the bloody bus to bloody barger, your arse in parsley. He'd be fucked if he was going to sit here all day, all fucking day, as Scott. The old man went on to reveal, using Scotland's lexicon of undeleted expletives to the full, that he'd lived his adult life far from the sun-ripened vines of Tuscany, amid the redundant miners, laid-off chemical factory workers and displaced cabinet makers of Bull Rye, inertia's perennially chilly, rain-soaked and unromantic sounding Garnet Valley. And the fucking buses were there were just as fucking bad. "You'll surely prefer it here to Dull Rye though, eh?" said Tony, abandoning Italian, admitting defeat. "Aye, well, the weather's better here," the old man agreed. "But have you not watched Italian telly? Pure shite. You couldn't call it entertainment. Late night discussions about Italian politics with wrinkly old skeezers like me and the missus. And when they try and make you laugh, he's a break. Italian comedy. My grandchildren acting daft falling off their trampolines is less stupid. Thank fuck for my Sky subscription. And nothing ever happens round here. Nothing. Well, nothing happens anywhere except what folk make happen. Most folk round here don't want anything to happen. Folk, world's full of them. Makes you sick, useless bastards mostly." And with that, the old man hobbled off towards the muckies.
So before the audience bombard you with questions, I think it would be great to hear just how you came to get the book published.
How I came to get the book published, it was a complete happy accident. A meeting with John Comerford. I think is John still here in the room? Yes, thank you, John. I shall forever be in your debt. Because I know John, you'll know John as an actor, hairdresser, and I know him as a playwright. And I'm not sure that enough of his plays have had an airing as yet, because he's a fine playwright. And I guess we bumped into one another on Byers Road complaining about not getting our writing out there. And I said that I'd got a novel that I'd written that nobody wanted. And John said, "Well, just get in touch with my pal Stephen, he publishes books." And I got in touch with Stephen, and here we are just about 2 years later. He's published my book. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, John.
That's such a lovely story, and it proves that all the best things happen in Byers Road. Okay, do I see any questions from the audience? Now, rather than, and can you stand up and shout, or do you need me to run round with the mic? Try standing and shouting. So do I see one at the back there? Yes. Hello. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned that you found the writing process very tricky, not particularly enjoyable. Would you rule out doing another novel?
Thank you. My daughter's asked the question. She's read the novel and claims to have enjoyed it. So would I write another? I really didn't enjoy writing it. It wasn't like working down a mine, but it was very hard work. It's the old Morecambe and Wise thing. I've got lots of the right words, but not necessarily anywhere close to the right order. I have actually started to write another one because I got an opening line but I don't have the rest of the story at all. And it's vaguely to do, it's something to do with being a Northern Soul DJ playing around a town which might be thought to be Glasgow, and that Northern Soul DJ might be thought to be me as well. Well, I've got the start, but I don't have the rest of it. It was the same as with this book. I had the beginning and I had the end, but I had none of the other stuff in between, and it took me, it took 2 years to write, and it wasn't fun. I hope it's more fun to read.
Any more questions? People who are and are not related to David Belcher are welcome to ask. Hi, Hugh.
Having had the dubious pleasure of working with you in newspapers for the last 50 years, if the book is acquired for film rights, who from your long and colourful journalistic past, and I rule myself out because I'm too short, but who would play the central character Tony from all of the members of the press that you have worked with these 5 decades?
Put me on the spot there. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of handsome and imposing Scottish journalists other than yourself. Ones who might be slightly taller. I can't think of anyone at all. I think I could have.
Other than that, then, who was the biggest shit you worked with?
Everyone I've ever worked with has been delightful. There was a bloke I worked with at the Herald who reappeared back in Scotland from a spell in South Africa, and he plainly left South Africa. This was when apartheid was still in force, and he plainly left South Africa because it wasn't quite hard enough on all those black people. And he used to wander around swinging an imaginary golf club at an imaginary golf ball. And he referred to me, I'd written a piece about a shop in a fashion outlet in Glasgow, and I'd been photographed wearing a suit, a kind of pink suit with scribble on it. It was a really nice suit. But to this guy, I became the boy who makes his own clothes. That was how he referred to me. But for his lack of charity towards the oppressed black majority of South Africa, that's why I didn't like him. His personal insult to me was a very small part of it. But he was like the only person. I can't think of many others. I can't think of any others.
Too kind.
Yeah, I know. It's my failing.
There at the bar.
Did your experience as a music journalist inform much of this piece?
No, I think Tony and I are not the same person. We've got these similarities. He's an exaggerated version of myself in lots of ways. It's more Tony's interest in film and comedy that informed the book, and that's how he gets involved in making this recreation of the bullet car chase sequence. And he actually, I never felt the need to try and become a stand-up comedian, but Tony has had a go at it and didn't do terribly well, as the book reveals.
Any other questions? Yeah, I see one hiding right round to my left there. Hi.
I have 2 questions.
You're allowed 2 questions.
I thought I would just ask them both at the same time. So, do you have any Italian heritage or family connection and speak Italian? And have you always harboured this desire to write a book, and has it just happened, and why now?
I could give you an answer in fluent Italian, but
Wonderful.
no, actually, I won't do it because my Italian actually is far from fluent. It's non-existent. Katie Leroni. I don't have any Italian antecedents, but I've very much enjoyed going on holiday to Italy over the past 20 odd years and making friends with Italians and making friends with Glaswegian Italians, and just feeling that there's a lot of similarities similarities in kind of dry and slightly puerile humour sometimes that Italians and I think Glaswegians share. I'd love to think that obviously the proceeds from this novel, the money's just going to roll in, and I'll be able to buy my own hilltop place somewhere in Tuscany. No, it's not. I've just been told. But you know, if I were on a better royalty rate, you'd all be very welcome to my Italian mansion that I'm claiming I'm going to be able to buy. Not at any time soon.
What about the second bit of the question? Why now?
Oh, why now? I started it writing that as a lockdown project because I think I spent a week doing DIY tasks around the house and knew that really was a kind of waste of whatever minor talents I might have, so I should write. I wrote from April 2020 till Christmas Eve 2020, and then again in 2021, and it really didn't get finished until sort of August 2022. But it was a lockdown project, and it was quite nice for me to be able to go away to my vision of Italy and get out of the house and have this creative headspace, as I believe we call it. So that was how it began.
Any more questions? Yes, someone else from the back.
Do you have any writers that inspired your writing style?
Are there any writers whose writing style?
Who inspired your writing style?
Oh, sorry.
What writers?
Let's think. Sir Hugh Keevans, of the Daily Record. I'm trying to think. I studied English literature at university, which put me off writing for about it's put me off reading for about 25 years. I didn't read books for about 25 years. And then when I started reading books, I started reading American crime fiction, starting with Raymond Chandler, and going on to a whole host of like modern American crime fiction authors, people like James Lee Burke, Don Winslow. There's a whole host of names, not that well known names maybe. And there's a guy called T.C. Boyle, Tom Boyle, who has written maybe about 30 novels over the past 40 years, and they've been in a wide range of different styles. He's written one detective novel, he's written ecological thrillers, he's written ecological protest novels. He lives in California. He's written about Mexican migrant workers and how they're unseen in California. And he's written comic novels, satirical novels, serious novels, and I think he's been more of an inspiration than anyone else that I can think of. But more recently, getting back to Raymond Chandler, Denise Miner has written a fantastic Philip Marlowe novel, which I've just begun to read, and it's fantastic. It's actually better than Raymond Chandler is. It's kind of wiser and funnier and hipper than Raymond Chandler. So yeah, Denise Miner as well. Denise Miner.
Now that you are about to become a septuagenarian and about to become a grandfather, are you a different David Belcher from the one who told me not to go to work one day so that we could sit in your flat and listen to Marvin Gaye and his album What's Going On?
You can come round to my home at any time and we will sit down and listen to Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. Neither of us has changed one iota over the past 50 years.
I think I saw another question down the front. Did I see another? Yes, hi.
I'm just wondering where your inspiration came from depicting Barga as one of your parts of your book. My family's from Barga, so I was just wondering how you managed to get to Barga.
We got to Barga because I have a friend whose ancient relatives are all from Barga, and it was because of him that we went to Barga. And at that time he had a house in Barga. And we didn't actually go and stay with him, but we'd also seen There was a documentary about 30 years ago, which I've forgotten the name of. Maybe Sergio can you remember what it's called? Pesci e Patate.
Channel 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seen it.
And it was that led us to Barga, and we were completely blown away by the fact that everyone is bilingual, Glaswegian and Italian, and it's a fascinating place. It's a very pretty, picturesque town. Maybe not the most exciting town in the world, which is something that Tony Moscadini finds when he's in this fictional version of Barga. And that was the genesis. It was going on holiday to Barga. Thank you, Sergio, and thanks for the question.
Sergio, did you actually have a question? Fire ahead.
Any interest for a screen version?
As yet, you may be unsurprised to learn that there's no screen interest. I do know there's a screenwriter, Mr. Sergio Casci, who I feel certain would do a wonderful job of turning this sprawling novel into a cogent film script.
He's very expensive, Anna.
Oh dear.
You have another question?
Yes.
What's the first line of your next book? You said you had it.
You put me on the spot. I can't quite remember what it is, but it summarises the Northern Soul DJ as he's at one of his Northern Soul nights, but he's not dressed in the Northern Soul DJ uniform deliberately and consciously. So he realises that he's rendered himself invisible to his target audience as he looks out over this room full of people dancing, none of whom are paying him the least bit of attention.
Any more questions? Yes. Oh, do you see one at the bar, or were you just adjusting your sleeve? That's quite okay. Hi there.
I want to go to Barga now. I've never been. But can you tell me, is there a buyer's road in Barga?
There's the gathering point, I would say, near the old oak trees, the closest it gets, and I think is it Onesti's Bar?
Shut.
Is it? Well, you and I, with the proceeds from when this turns into a film, we're going to go back to Barga and reopen Onesti's.
Jesse, any more questions? Yes, at the front.
Does the book have a dedication? And if so, who is it dedicated to?
It is dedicated to my wife and my two delightful daughters. One daughter couldn't be here tonight, but my wife and one of my lovely daughters, they're both here tonight. It wouldn't have happened without them. There's a whole host of other dedications, many of whom are here tonight, and they will see their own names at the front of this book as they are compelled, nay forced, at gunpoint virtually, to buy a copy of it just so they can read their own names.
That might actually, unless I see anyone else burning to ask a question, that might be a really good point to wrap up and direct you up to the signing table where you can buy a book and have it signed by the author. So, am I seeing a burning question from anyone? In that case, can we all give David a huge round of applause?